The vacation was supposed to be a chance to reconnect, a family getaway that would bring us closer. But the moment I got to the airport, I knew it was going to be anything but that. My parents had invited my husband, Chuck, and me on a grand trip to Italy. Dad had even personally called to say, "We'd love to have you both come. We'll take care of everything." Everything. Of course. I should have seen that as a red flag. But I wanted to believe things could be different. After all, it had been years since I had seen them make any effort to really connect with me. Chuck and I arrived at JFK after a minor hiccup. Chuck forgot his phone charger, of course. We were a little behind, but we made it to the terminal just in time for boarding. As we walked up to the gate, there they were, my parents, Kyle, all lounging in the first-class lounge with champagne glasses in hand. My mum waved at us as if she were hosting a dinner party. "Hey, you made it," she said with a smile. I laughed lightly, still catching my breath. "Barely. Where do we check in?" "Oh, I already got your boarding passes," she said, handing me an envelope. I opened it. 54B economy, middle seat. Back of the plane, right next to the bathroom. I thought it was a joke. No, really. "Where are our actual seats?" I asked, my voice trailing off with confusion. My dad blinked at me. "Like I should have known better. That's your seat." I looked at Chuck, who mirrored my confusion. "Wait, you guys are in first class?" I asked. "Of course," my mum said nonchalantly. "We used miles and points. Your dad's back can't handle long flights anymore." I paused for a moment before, asking, "What about Kyle? 1A baby?" Kyle said, raising his glass, grinning at me. I looked back at my mum. "So, you booked first class for everyone, except me?" She shrugged. "Well, we just figured you wouldn't mind. You're used to flying coach." It was then that the weight of what they had done hit me. I was the responsible one growing up the quiet, easy kid who always did what I was told, never asked for much, and worked hard to get good grades. Meanwhile, my younger brother, Kyle, was the complete opposite, always getting into trouble, constantly needing to be bailed out, always at the center of attention. So, of course, when it came down to the trip, I was the one shoved to the back of the plane. Chuck leaned in and whispered, "Babe, maybe they didn't mean it that way." I said nothing, just nodded, even though inside, I was burning. They had the nerve to invite me on what was supposed to be a family trip and then treat me like some afterthought they didn't care enough about to even sit next to. I didn't yell. I just said, "All right." Chuck went to the restroom, and I told him I'd wait by the windows. Instead, I walked straight to the ticket counter and cancelled my seat. I'd paid a few $100 to upgrade my luggage and insurance just in case. Thank God I did. Then, I pulled up a travel app and started browsing for other destinations. Somewhere far, somewhere peaceful. I saw it first class to Tokyo, leaving in less than 2 hours. And a Dreamliner. Lay flat seats. Meals by a Michelin chef. Screw it, I thought. I booked it. Yes, it was expensive, but I had the money. More importantly, I had my self-respect. I walked back over to my parents, who were just lining up to board. My mum looked up and asked, "Are you coming?" "No," I said flatly. My dad frowned, not understanding what I meant. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone. "I'm not going to Italy, I just booked Tokyo. First class. Solo." Chuck came up behind me, mid-conversation. "Wait, what?" I smiled. "They figured I'd be fine flying coach." "Right," I said. "So I figured I'd be just fine flying alone." My mum's face fell, the colour draining from it. "Are you serious?" "Completely," I replied. I turned and walked toward the gate. Chuck followed me a few steps, asking if I was okay. "I'm fine," I said, and told him to enjoy Italy. "Have fun," I added. As I left them all behind and boarded my flight, the 2 weeks I spent in Japan were the most peaceful of my life. I stayed in a quiet ryokan in Hakone, soaked in hot springs, drank tea on mountain balconies, and wandered through Shinjuku at midnight. I ate sushi so fresh. It practically swam onto my plate. I didn't rush. I didn't answer calls. I posted a few photos here and there, nothing flashy, just enough to let my mum know I was living well. Chuck messaged a few times. The trip was awkward. He said, My parents were confused and felt bad, but it was too late for that now. They had made their choices, and I had made mine. When I got home, I wasn't expecting much. No flowers, no apology, just silence. Chuck came back 2 days after me. We didn't say much that night. He looked tired, drained. Finally, he spoke. "That was bold," he said, his voice careful. I raised an eyebrow. "You mad?" He shrugged. "They're mad. They think you embarrassed them." I laughed. But it wasn't a laugh, it was dead and dry. "Good." He hesitated before saying, "They think you owe them a conversation." I stared at him. "Excuse me, they invited me, stuck me in the back, and now I'm the bad guy." Chuck didn't argue. He just walked into the bedroom, and that's when I realized something. Chuck had never stood up for me. Not once. Not at the gate. Not in the messages. Not even now. The family group chat, which had been quiet since the trip, suddenly lit up. "Mom, we need to talk. Face to face. Me, why? Dad, you humiliated us. Kyle, everyone in first class noticed your little performance. Me, I didn't perform. I left. Kyle, dude, you made it weird. Mom, I cried after you left. Was that the plan?" I stared at my phone. My fingers were shaking, not out of nervousness, but because I was done. "Me, you're mad." I didn't sit quietly in the back of the plane and act grateful. "Dad, we paid for your trip." "Me, you paid for your trip and made it clear I wasn't part of it." "Mom, we didn't mean it that way." "Me, but you did it on purpose." Silence. Then Chuck sent one message. "Chuck, can we not do this in text?" Against my better judgment, I agreed to a family dinner at their house. Chuck came too. At first, it seemed normal. Too normal. They tried to act like everything was fine, like nothing had happened. Then, out of nowhere, my mum put her fork down and looked at me. "We're not the enemy, you know," she said, her voice shaky. "I didn't say anything," she continued. "We were just trying to make the trip comfortable for everyone. You could have just told us how you felt." I kept my voice flat. "You didn't think about how I'd feel before you booked those tickets." My dad chimed in. "We assumed you'd prefer to save the money. You didn't ask," I said, the words leaving my mouth before I could stop them. "You didn't think it would be such a big deal." There it was again. Didn't think. I took a deep breath. All my life, I had done what they wanted, got the good grades, took the job they liked, married the safe guy, never complained. And yet, every time, they treated me like I didn't matter. My mum's voice shook. "That's not fair." "No," I interrupted. "What's not fair is asking me to smile while you push me to the edge of the table every time." My dad's tone turned cold. "So this is about your childhood now. You're still holding on to old stuff." I didn't bring it up. "You did." I wanted to say, "With every choice you made then and now." Chuck cleared his throat. "Maybe we should take a break." I turned to him. "No, let's not." He blinked. "Where were you at the gate, Chuck?" He looked at me like I had slapped him. "What?" "You stood there and said nothing. I was humiliated, and you stayed quiet." "I didn't want to make things worse," he said defensively. "No," I said. "You didn't want to be uncomfortable, so you let me be alone." My mum tried to cut in, but I held up my hand. "This isn't just about the plane," I said. "It's about the pattern. You treat me like a side note. And Chuck, you let them." Chuck stood up. "Okay, that's enough." "No," I said, standing too. "It's not enough. I didn't just fly to Tokyo. I flew away from this." That night, Chuck said something I didn't expect. "If you keep acting like this, we won't have a marriage left." I stared at him. "What? Like everything has to be a battle? Like you always need to win?" I left. "This isn't about winning. It's about being respected." He didn't say anything. I packed a bag and stayed with a friend for the week. One morning, I checked my email. There was a flight confirmation from my mum business class to Paris. Alone, I stared at it. No note, no message. Just the ticket. 2 hours later, I got a text from her. "We figured you'd want to go alone this time." I wanted to scream. They still didn't get it. They thought they were being generous, but they were still trying to control the terms. I haven't decided yet if I'll take the ticket. Maybe I'll go alone again. Maybe I'll send it back. Maybe I'll never speak to them again. Chuck's still trying to be neutral. But I'm starting to realize Neutral just means not on your side. This story isn't over, but it's not going back to what it was. The plane took off, and I don't think I'll ever land in the same place again. I thought the Tokyo trip would be the biggest shock, the defining moment of this story. But it wasn't. I thought the dinner confrontation would be the peak, the moment things could no longer be ignored. But once again, I was wrong. You see, it wasn't over, not by a long shot. The business class ticket to Paris, the one my mum had sent me, sat there in my inbox like a cold reminder of their attempt to control me. I hadn't replied to her email. I couldn't. I left it there, sitting, untouched. I stared at it often, like it was some kind of radioactive object that I shouldn't go near. 3 days passed, and then I got a call from my cousin Sarah. "Hey, why didn't you tell me you were going to Paris with your mum?" she asked, sounding confused. I paused. "What?" She laughed, but there was something uneasy about it. "Your mum told Aunt Bev too. She made it sound like you guys patched things up and were doing a mother-daughter thing in Europe. She said she booked a spa week in Provence to make it up to you." I felt the blood drain from my face. What? I could hear Sarah trying to suppress her laughter, but I wasn't finding it funny. "Yeah, she said she was making it up to you. I thought that was nice." "Nice," I whispered. I opened the email again. This time, I looked more closely. It was a round-trip ticket to Paris. Return flight for 2 people, but the second passenger wasn't me. It was her. She had booked herself a ticket to Paris, used mine as bait, and didn't even bother to lie about it. I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity. Meanwhile, I was still staying with my friend, Jill, trying to stay distracted from all the drama. But as fate would have it, one night, I came home from work, and Jill handed me her phone. "Read this," she said, her voice low. It was a message from Chuck to Jill. At first, I thought it would be something harmless. Maybe him asking her to convince me to come back. It wasn't. It was worse than I could have imagined. She's losing it, making drama over nothing. Her parents were just being practical, but she's always had a chip on her shoulder about them. Honestly, I didn't sign up for this version of her. "She's intense," Chuck had said. The worst line. I wish she'd just calm down and be the person I married. I froze. My stomach dropped. My heart felt like it was sinking into my chest. That's when I knew for sure. Chuck didn't get it. He never did. He liked me quiet. He liked me low maintenance. Easy to ignore. To him. It was easier when I didn't make waves. But I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. Not after everything that had happened. I went for a walk that night, trying to clear my mind, and ended up calling my bank. I was checking on a wire transfer for a freelance project when I decided to look at some of my other linked accounts. One of them was a travel savings account that I had built up over the last few years. I hadn't checked it since Tokyo. When I opened it, my balance was $0. At first, I thought it was a mistake, but it wasn't. I pulled up the transaction history. Chuck had drained it. Not after the Tokyo trip before Italy. $7.20 gone. I clicked on the details. The transfer was to his name, labeled Joint Travel Upgrade. My stomach dropped. I checked my email again, searched for his name, and sure enough, there it was. An upgrade request confirmation. 3 passengers. JFK to Rome. First class. My dad, my mum, and Chuck. He had known, he had upgraded with them, used my money to do it. I was stunned. Completely stunned. I came home that night. Chuck was sitting on the couch, watching a game like nothing had changed. "Who paid for your upgrade to first class?" I asked, my voice flat. He muted, the TV confusion flickering across his face. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone, showing him the email confirmation. His face went pale. "Why did you take the money from my account?" I asked again, my voice shaking, but I couldn't stop myself. "It was a mistake," he said quickly. "I thought it was the joint fund, not your account." "Chuck, no. The joint fund ends in 8812. This one was mine. My solo account," he stammered, running a hand through his hair. "Your parents offered to upgrade me. I didn't want to say no, so you used my money without asking," I said. "And let me sit in the back of the plane while you flew first class." He hesitated. "I thought we'd switch halfway." "You never told me that." I shot back. "You never planned to, did you?" He didn't answer. The next morning, I went to work, quiet, numb. I was still in disbelief. When I sat at my desk, I called a lawyer not for divorce yet, but for financial advice. I learned something that day. Chuck forging my name to move that money was illegal. I had receipts, timestamps, and records of the transfer. The lawyer told me to document everything. Texts, emails, bank logs, the works. Then she asked a question I wasn't expecting. Do you think he worked with your parents on this? At first, I said no, but now I wasn't so sure. The following morning, I received a FedEx envelope, no return address. Inside was a flash drive, with a note, "You don't know everything." I stared at it for a long time. What was on it? Who sent it? And why? I didn't know if I even wanted to know, but I had to find out. I plugged it in. There was one folder labeled, "You deserve to know." Inside the folder were video files. The first one was a screen recording of an email thread between Chuck and my mum. Subject, Italy. Plans. Upgrade question. From Chuck to Mom. "Hey, just confirming the miles upgrade. We're good for 3 seats. Right, I can cover the rest from her savings." She won't notice. She barely checks that account. Just keep it quiet. I want this trip to go smoothly. Mum's response, perfect. I'll handle the logistics. She's not picky about stuff like that. Thank you for being so flexible, honestly. It's easier when you're the one we coordinate with. The second video was audio, a phone call, likely recorded by Sarah. It was my mum, again, laughing. She's always been so dramatic. If we give her too much, she thinks we're overcompensating. If we give her too little, she cries about being forgotten. Honestly, it's exhausting. Chuck replied. She's intense. Yeah, but she'll get over it. She always does. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry. Didn't yell. I just felt blank. The next morning, I packed the flash drive in an envelope and drove to my parents' house, without calling, without warning. When I walked in, they were at the kitchen table. Sunday brunch spread out before them, their usual fake suburban peace. My mum looked up. "Sweetheart, what a surprise." I slid the envelope across the table. "Play it." Her face froze. My dad looked confused. Chuck came in through the back door, apparently invited too. Great. I stood there, arms crossed, as they played the email thread. Then the audio. By the end of it, my mum was pale. My dad looked like he had swallowed glass. Chuck stared at the floor. I let the silence hang until it felt unbearable. Then I asked, "How long have I been the joke to all of you?" My mum opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "No, don't defend it. You literally said, 'I'm exhausting.' And Chuck, you said you'd take my money behind my back to keep things smooth." Chuck stepped forward. "I was trying to help," I exploded. "You stole from me. You didn't help. You made sure I'd be the only one stuck in the back so you could sip wine with them up front." My voice cracked. My mum started, crying. "I didn't mean to." "You never mean it," I shouted. "That's the problem. You never mean it. And yet you always do it. Over and over." My dad's voice softened. "You've always been strong. We thought you didn't need the same things Kyle did." There it was again, the old excuse. "I didn't need handouts," I said. "I needed parents." I looked at Chuck. I thought I had a partner, but all I had were people who preferred me silent. Chuck tried to step closer. "We can talk about this now." "No," I said, cutting him off. "We've talked for years. We talked, and no one listened." I walked out. I slammed the door behind me so hard that the whole frame shook. I could hear someone shouting my name behind me, but I didn't turn around. I didn't stop driving until I hit the next town over, parked in an empty lot, and sat there until the sun went down. It's been 5 weeks since all of this happened. Chuck and I are separated. The lawyer is handling the rest. He tried calling twice, but I didn't pick up. My mom sent flowers. Then a long letter. Then nothing. They're still mad, but maybe now they get it. Sarah called. "I'm sorry. I'm the one who recorded the call. I knew you needed to hear it. She didn't have to apologize. She gave me clarity. Here's what I learned. Sometimes people only love the version of you that makes their life easier, the quiet, agreeable, forgiving version. But the moment you start asking for equal treatment, for decency, for respect, suddenly, You're too much. I'm not too much. I was just too aware. Once you see it, once you know, you can't go back. They'll survive without me. But I'm not sure they'll ever understand what they lost. I'm still figuring things out. I'm living in a small rental, cooking for one, traveling when I want, not perfect, not healed, but free. And you know what? Sometimes peace doesn't come from fixing the people who broke you. Sometimes peace comes from booking a flight in the opposite direction and never looking back. You said,